Welcome back. You here at Goldberg. Today we'll be talking about post-relationship stress disorder, which is a condition I believe affecting many guys in the West, at least those who are privileged or cursed enough to have experienced a significant romantic union. And our tragic tale today emerges from Pennsylvania. Mandy Rush was charged in a twisted case that started 2 years ago when her ex, Kevin Metzger, committed suicide, and this was following her sending him some pretty terrible text messages. Now, they have a child together, a daughter, which makes it even worse. She told him over WhatsApp she was moving in with a new man, and that new partner would be their daughter's new father. She also warned Metzger he would never see his child again. So this is Kevin. Seems like a regular, well-meaning dude. He spent 20 years in the Army, then joined the reserves. Probably the type of guy who just wanted to have a family, pay the bills, go to the PTA meetings, the ballet performances, the Little League games, and call it quits, essentially. Now, who knows? Maybe I'm wrong, and she'll say in her defense that he was psychologically and emotionally and physically abusive, because it seems every guy who a woman has to get rid of is labeled with one of those claims, if you will. Oh, he's such a horrible human being. I hope for the child's sake that you do kill yourself, she allegedly wrote. She would be better off not even knowing you. She messaged him how she would have sex with her new beau on Mother's Day while your daughter calls him daddy. Yeah, we've got a psycho here. In another instance, she allegedly sent a video of her having sex with another man when Metzger sent her $200 and she said that wasn't enough money. And she sent these while he was at military training, probably to stress him out more, trying to push him over the edge. Go kill yourself, she reportedly wrote another message, this from 2020. You aren't a real effing human. Now pay attention to all that language of dehumanization, because it's very important for what we'll discuss in just a minute. Here is a lovely lady, and to be honest, she's not bad looking. A little bit of a chin cell, crazy eyes, but now I know the resident Chads have much better options and would never touch this, and they're picking up all the hot chicks on Tinder. I accept that, okay, full admission, but nevertheless, there's also that dynamic where you say, if he loses this chick who's decent looking, how readily is he going to be able to replace her? People don't talk about that. And some will react by going, what's the big deal? He could just go hook up, go MGTOW, forget about her. Yet we're discussing an individual who has invested a large chunk of their life in another person. You've shared hopes, dreams, aspirations, vulnerabilities, finances. You have a child. You've probably bonded with that offspring. And now you're expected, too bad, shrug your shoulders, no big deal. Women have the gift, if you will. Whether you want to call it evolution or they're wired that way by the grace of God, they are capable of just turning it off and saying, okay, it's in my interest to trade up to this guy, or the new conqueror has come in. So I'm going to forget about, or I'm going to suppress whatever feelings, whatever past I had with this particular fellow. Men, it's harder, because can he just waltz out there and magically find another woman who's equivalent? Well, not just that. He's got a daughter, and he's being told you're never going to see her again. So that's going to be incredibly devastating, even for a masculine man who works in trades. So you really have to be sympathetic. And this is tragic. The terminology, the language, being unpersoned, you have no value. You're being replaced by another guy. You have no relevance in the life of this person that you helped create. Truly horrific. I was listening recently to this song by Morgan Evans, who he was, I guess, married to Kelsey Ballerini, and she cucked him with a slightly better looking guy. I'm not doing a parody here, I promise. But there's a line which goes, it'd be easier if I hated you, but I still miss the person I thought I knew. That really stood out to me, because a lot of guys, they don't get it. And the ability of a chick to go so quickly, in some cases, there's no lead up over so many months or years. It might just be overnight. Goodbye, this is over with. And to just try to explain to yourself, how did this happen? And were they being deceptive the whole time if they said something affectionate, if they made certain declarations about, I want to be with you for till the end of time? And what are you left with? A dating app? Going to get a church girl? Your life has been annihilated, and you're expected in society, oh, who cares? No big deal. Let's just proceed onwards. But that's an advance to what? Barbarism? You create your account, and it's like that song, God made 5'4", 250 pounds in spandex. It is truly depressing. And so let me talk really briefly about my own experience to some extent. By the way, this is kind of in process to becoming a trad person. You have to have the hat. And these are some selected trad wives. I met a girl some years ago that was, at least by American standards, fairly trad, no relationships before, never had sex, more conservative background. And initially, it was a pretty good thing to have established. Not every guy has experienced that, where a chick is genuinely infatuated with you physically, is just like can't stop touching you, wants to be around you, that sort of thing, is telling you I'll be in love with you forever. Not all dudes can attest to that. I experienced it, but for a time. Very few things will last forever. But I think it was interesting as it went on, and maintain frame or not, unless you take a woman out to the boongies and you cut off all technology, they have social media, they have TikTok, they have Instagram, they have feminist friends, which she had all of those. And they will always cast it as you are the villain trying to control their life. Like all these silly movies, you're the evil Thanos abusing women, and they're part of the heroes, the allies. They're part of the squad. This is how they're going to look at the world. It's what Hollywood feeds them. And that's an onslaught very few men will be able to overcome. But there were certainly some black pill moments. And we talk about this being unperson and being kind of confused. I remember she sent me a message on Instagram at one point, and I screenshot it because I was like, this is a black pill for posterity. She says, well, even if you break up with me, I don't think it's going to take long for me to replace you. And that's 100% true. It's much easier for a girl, especially a reasonably attractive one, to just step outside and have a new relationship, or have a rich guy, have a really hot guy, have a simp, or have a combination of all three, or have all of them at the same time. No problemo whatsoever. So when you realize that, it does put things into perspective. Or to go from having that kind of gushing over the top infatuation to literally one time I remember she called me and she's giving the litany of reasons why she wants to end it. And she's just distorting and making up one lie after another. And so I said, all right, hold on there. Let's just go down. This is not true. We have examples, X, Y, Z. And she would wait till I was done and then just go right back into it like a pre-recorded voicemail. If you've ever called up Comcast or any other modern corporation, you can't get to a live agent. You just keep getting cycled through a phalanx of robots until they automatically disconnect the call. That's how it was. And you're going, really? I mean, it's brutal as an experience, but it happens. Not just that, but if you are at some level to make a relationship work, you have to give and take, you share information. But I learned this very quickly, that if I shared anything that was, if you showed a little bit more vulnerability, she would say, oh yeah, this strengthens our relationship. And then down the road, when she was looking for a reason to end it, she would use anything you had told her against you. So it's like you're sharpening the dagger that's going to be plunged into your own heart. This is what I'm saying, and not to be cynical. It's just pointing out what that experience is like. And I didn't even go to the level of being married or cohabitating or having a kid. So I can understand how this dude would have been absolutely crushed by this revelation, and how much she was trying to torture him and abuse him even after the fact. Instead of saying, okay, amicably split, she wanted to drive him over the edge. It's really sad, to be honest. Speaking of kids, this particular chick that I was with, she went from saying, oh, I love you, I want to have your babies, please make me pregnant, that kind of thing, to, if you made me pregnant, I would have an abortion. And I was like, damn, that's brutal. And granted, many of these things were said in anger because she had an incredibly hot temper. But still, there's a limit, right? There's certain things I would say to someone I don't like, and there's things that are a bit overboard. But that's what happens. And this brings me to kind of the final point, because this is about being a masculine man. You trad guys, this is kind of your role model right here. Tall, athletic, masculine. You are very difficult to deal with because you tend to be pompous, condescending. You don't like anything that isn't in comport with what you believe. That's fine. I understand. A lot of insecurity goes into the trad movement because they know how screwed up the world is, and they figure, well, if I just find this perfect trad wife, I won't be affected by it all. I won't be like you pathetic degenerates who are geomaxing or simping on dating apps because I got my good girl. And that's fine. It's not a terrible thing to aspire towards. But when these people lecture you and say, you need to get married within 6 months of meeting her, it's like, no, that's a terrible idea. Because what happens is you don't get to know who she is. And I didn't know the girl I was with, I really didn't know her properly until at least a year, year and a half in. And then it started unraveling, but it got worse and worse the more they get kind of out into the world. You cannot trust a girl when she's on her best behavior courting you with her parents. You have to see what is she like on a bad day? What is she like when she doesn't, you don't manage to do what she wants, or you don't celebrate Valentine's Day perfectly or her birthday in an excellent manner. You aren't taking her on enough trips or enough concerts. She doesn't have the life like she sees on social media. You will not know. So do you want to figure that out when you're just dating slash courting, or do you want to figure that out once you're legally bound, you have a couple of kids, and then she's turning psycho on you? You know, just a suggestion, because trad or not, the laws still favor women. That's why, like I said, with this girl, Rush, she knew she could replace him, and there's not much he can do. And he's has the weaker hand because he's not going to be able to quickly find a woman on par with her, at least in terms of looks. So you can indict and harangue me as much as possible. But one thing no one can say about Goldberg is that I've ever tried to mislead you just to push some stupid ideology or some narrative. I always said, if you can find a person, that's fine. But you ought to ensure you're taking the necessary precautions. I mean, we can all be optimistic. I know Thomas Sowell says the divorce rate's closer to 14 or 15%. It's not into the 50 or 70. Now, it reminds me of that movie with J-Lo where Owen Wilson's like, yeah, but I mean, 48% of marriages, they just don't work. She's like, yeah, but you got to focus on the 52%. The 52%, bruh. Which that's typical of, low IQ people. As long as it's the majority, it's fine. All I'm saying is extreme caution. You should not marry a woman until you've been with her at least 2 years and truly observed her. And if you want to just take the plunge, regardless, do as you will. But remember, there's the image you see online, there's the kind of idealized thing, and you have control over yourself as a man. You don't have control over her or her nature. It doesn't matter how religious she is. She can still flip. And so you got to have a better perspective. Otherwise, you can end up in a lot of trouble. And what does that trouble look like? Well, remember that Tim McGraw song? Meanwhile, back at Yogi's, porch lights in, come on in if you fancy. Chad's in the bedroom, Soy's in the fridge. Tyrone's banging that trad wife just a smidge. I'm just saying. Life is complicated. As a man, you need to arm yourself with the appropriate information so that you don't end up being absolutely crushed by someone who's just seeing you not as the final destination, but one of the many stops along the way.